weapons platoon out, and Gunny Carpenter was able to tell the 3 shop what went on the ground, and I eventually talked to the XO on the internet, on email, and everything was squared away. But initially, that letter, I felt like the concern at the time had a picture of us as that we were timid or that we were being hesitant, and that was not the case. We just were trying to be methodical, and that's how that letter came to be. I wanted to put in writing as an after action of what I saw on the ground and what I wanted them to understand. It wasn't a matter of me being timid or being hesitant. It's just using my forces appropriately for the right job. If that answers your question.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And is there anything else you want to add about that general topic?
Not really, but that's one thing that I also gained from Major Gannon too, was it's always good to send an intentions letter to the 3 or to the 5, just to let them, kind of give them a good picture of what you're seeing on the ground, because there's a lot of transmissions on the net, and you can only say so much on TAC 1 or TAC 2, because everyone's listening to you on those nets. You can't talk Iridium because it's not secure. So, hey, write a letter, give them your concerns, and read them, and then at that point, if it's classified material, it's on paper, and you put it in a classified folder. They go up there and read it, and if it's important enough, maybe they come down, or they get on the net and says, hey, I have an answer for your concerns on the net, and here's they are in order. And that's how a lot of things were solved that way. And Major Harrison gave me an email later on that day and said, hey, Roger that, I see and I understand. You have good decision-making ability, and especially, later on during the RIP, I definitely see that, you're making smart, sound decisions as a battle captain. So it was just a matter of communicating.
And Major Henderson's billet was
he was a battalion
XL.
Right.
Okay.
But everyone that night when myself and battalion were going back and forth, everyone was hearing Lima Company, myself, and my XO with the 3 Bravo going back and forth on what to do. And essentially, battalion does dictate what you're going to do and what needs to happen. And maybe to some degree, at my point, you pick and choose what issues you want to raise, and you choose what issues you want to raise concern of. Not questioning your authority or your guidance, but here's concern, more or less. And that was one of those points where I wanted to pick my concern and my issues with it. But essentially, the mission was complete in the end, and everyone's guidance was met, and most importantly, the battalion's guidance was met. And they did go through the city that day.
Okay, and the next topic I want to talk about is the topic of after-action reports and lessons learned. And what I'd like to do is cover it in maybe 3 parts, if it makes sense. First is to talk about the process of determining those lessons in Lima Company, how the platoon commanders put together their reports, and then you put together your report as a company commander. And then the substance of those reports, so the 5 or 7 or 8 most important highlights.
Okay.
And then the third would be the transfer of that material to Baker Company.
Okay. The first one I answered, standard topic discussion recommendation. I like that. It's very clear, concise, and very direct. About 3 or 4 weeks out, I got all the platoon commanders in and battle staff meeting and said, let's start cranking out these after actions. Each platoon had a week to basically, or 2 weeks, to get all their information from their squad leaders, fire team leaders, and of course their Marines to put these things together. It all got compiled at the squad leader level, and each squad leader put his information together, passed up to platoon commanders. Platoon commanders took all the input from all their squad leaders, comprised, and put their initial points into their reports, and eventually it came up to me. I had my own personal highlights, and then I had a fact that was really proficient, and he was my senior watch officer, and he's got a lot of 3 shop experience. So I tasked him with putting together the after action based on what I put in there, what all the platoon commanders put in there, get the trends, things that were high-end topics, and put this document together, which ended up being like a 26-page company level document, which was for me for review. I made my edits on it, and then after that, it went up to the 3 shop. That's point one.
And then the substance. So what are the more important lessons learned?
The important lessons learned were the ones I'll cover with you are satellite patrolling, mounted patrolling, and OP operations and collateral duties. First one, satellite patrolling. A lot of concern came down to, well, how do you want to do satellite patrolling? Everyone in the satellite patrolling topic discussion recommendation, we all agree that it's important in this kind of environment. You need decentralization, you need fluidity, and you need flexibility. And satellite patrolling gives you that, and it gives you speed momentum. The issue there was, do you satellite at the platoon level or do you satellite at the squad level? If you satellite at the squad level, it's only a 4-man fire team. And how far do you want them to go out? And does the platoon commander feel comfortable having command and control? So, a method is when you do platoon satellite patrolling. When you split your squads out, it's still a pretty significant signature. So you can break it off into 2 fire team reinforced fire teams, 2 6-man teams, and you still have fluidity, you have momentum. They're smaller groups and they can move in and out, move in and around. Platoon commander can easily have command and control, and he can easily direct parts of his platoon to mass up if you take significant contact. And now, when you're doing satellite patrolling as well, you also want to have an element that will provide overwatch for you. That's a very important thing. Where do you get that overwatch from? Depends on which capabilities and limitations are. Overwatch gives you the ability to have someone looking over you as you're going down an MSR or going down your patrol route or your varied routes. And based on wherever ground you pick to get on an overwatch, you can see all of your adjacent elements moving in and around the patrol route. Vary your route as well. Never stick to a straight line. At least predictability. An enemy keys in on predictability. What do you use for overwatch? You can use it internally with your platoon, or you can use scout snipers, depending on how the company commander wants to use them. Because we at Recon, to do the serious covert OPs, we tend to use snipers more for providing good overwatch and precision fire. And that precision fire capability internal to your platoon. That's satellite patrolling in a nutshell. I can't stress it enough. You get less. We've had less casualties, or our casualties have been extremely minor due to satellite patrolling. When you send something in huge mass, it becomes too predictable and it's too big of a signature that you're going to get a lot of Marines killed, in that fashion. It's harder to hit 4 to 6 guys moving quickly through a city block than it is. It's harder than you see a whole squad of 12 or 13 Marines, because lead trace and you knew Taylor and Charlie, and you detonate that thing, you detonate that ID, that 155, it's gonna hit someone. All you gotta do is just hit the middle of the squad, and you're gonna get money. You're gonna make money. 6 guys is hard to do. Next bit is OP operations.
On the topic of satellite patrolling, what about how often do you see, or did you ever see, breaking down 2-man elements? Sergeant Milinkovic suggested that he did that sometimes.
It did, depending on the ground. You can do it. There's always going to be that level of mutual support, though. So even though it's a 2-man team, I'm not going to say that probably they went too far out where they didn't have good communication or they couldn't mass up. Maybe to go around a block or whatnot, to go around a small block, you can get away with it. I wouldn't do it all the time. You need that fire team is the core of everything that you do operating. You've got your only suppressive capability in that fire team is that SAW, and then really that 203, and that's it. You put a 203 in a 16, and you put a SAW and a 16 away from each other, and it's just you're asking for a bad day. Because if that saw goes down, if one person goes down, essentially that other weapon system is ineffective now. But if you have a fire team, one person goes down, you can still effectively fight your way out of a bad situation.
Okay.
And that's it's a risk that you take. Now, can I be safe to say that some of my guys might have taken that risk